Welcome, time travelers. SolaTales here, and tonight's adventure takes us straight into ancient Rome, where steam rises from carved stone counters and the world's first fast food cooks tend their bubbling pots. So dim the lights, sit back, and relax. The golden hour light of late afternoon filters through the narrow streets of ancient Rome, casting long shadows between the tall buildings that line the Via Subura. Here, where the working people of the great city make their homes, the air fills with the comfortable sounds of daily life drawing to its gentle close. Children's laughter echoes from distant courtyards, while the soft clip-clop of donkey hooves marks the passage of merchants heading home with their empty carts. On the corner where two cobblestone streets meet, a small shop glows with warm lamplight. This is Marcus's thermopolium, and he stands behind his remarkable stone counter like a conductor before his orchestra. The counter itself is a marvel of Roman ingenuity, a solid block of creamy travertine marble, carved with perfect circular holes that cradle large terracotta vessels. Each vessel holds a different treasure: lentil stew, rich with herbs, mulled wine fragrant with cinnamon and honey, roasted chickpeas still warm from the fire, and thick barley soup that steams gently in the cooling air. Marcus himself is a man of middle years, with gentle eyes that crinkle at the corners from decades of smiling at customers. His hands, weathered but sure, move with practiced grace as he stirs each pot with a different wooden spoon. The bronze ladles hanging from hooks along the counter catch the lamplight, creating dancing reflections on the polished stone surface. Around his waist, he wears a simple linen apron, soft from countless washings, tied with cord that his wife wove from wool, dyed the color of autumn leaves. The first evening customers begin to arrive, as they have for 15 years since Marcus first opened his little establishment. There is Gaius, the tired bricklayer, his hands still dusty from the day's work at the new bathhouse. He carries his own clay bowl, worn smooth from daily use, and nods to Marcus with the comfortable familiarity of old friendship. Behind him comes Livia, the seamstress from the shop across the way, her fingers pricked with needle marks, seeking the warmth of mulled wine to ease the ache in her joints. "The usual, my friend," Marcus asks Gaius, and his voice carries the gentle warmth of someone who finds joy in serving others. Without waiting for an answer, he dips his bronze ladle into the lentil stew, and the rich aroma of cumin and coriander rises with the steam. The stew flows into Gaius's bowl like liquid comfort, thick with tender vegetables and fragrant herbs that Marcus's wife gathered from their small garden behind the shop. The stone counter tells its own story under Marcus's hands. Carved by his father 25 years ago from a single block of travertine, its surface bears the gentle wear of countless meals served, countless coins counted, countless conversations shared. The circular holes that hold the terracotta vessels are perfectly smooth, shaped by patient chiseling, and worn even smoother by the daily ritual of lifting pots in and out. Around each hole, the stone shows the faint stains of years, traces of wine and oil, and the rich broths that have nourished this corner of Rome through seasons and years beyond counting. As the evening deepens and more customers arrive, the rhythm of service becomes like a gentle dance. Marcus moves between his pots with unhurried grace, each motion economical and sure. The bronze ladle moves from stew to soup to the vessel of roasted nuts, never hurrying, never spilling. Steam rises continuously from the stone counter, creating a warm haze that softens the lamplight and fills the small space with the mingled aromas of cumin, garlic, warming wine, and toasted grain. The ingenious system beneath the counter works its quiet magic. Below the marble surface, in carefully carved channels, glowing charcoal braziers maintain the perfect temperature for each dish. The heat rises through the stone itself, warming the terracotta vessels from below, while the marble counter remains just cool enough to rest hands upon. This innovation, born from Roman practicality and perfected through generations of thermopolium keepers, allows Marcus to serve hot food from dawn until the last customer departs with the coming of full darkness. Livia approaches the counter and sets down her small bronze cup, a treasured possession inherited from her grandmother. "Wine tonight, Marcus," she says, and her voice carries the weariness that comes only at day's end. "Make it sweet." Marcus nods with understanding and dips his smallest ladle into the vessel of mulled wine. The liquid glows ruby red in the lamplight, fragrant with honey and warming spices that his supplier brings from distant provinces. Cinnamon bark from far Egypt, cloves from lands beyond the Great Sea, and local honey, thick as amber, all combined in proportions that Marcus learned from his own father, who learned them from his father before him. The wine flows into Livia's cup with the gentle sound of liquid contentment, and she wraps her work-worn fingers around the bronze, sighing softly as the warmth spreads through her hands and up her arms. She takes a careful sip, closes her eyes, and for a moment all the tensions of the day seem to melt away like snow in spring sunshine. This is the true magic of the thermopolium, not just the food, but the moment of peace it offers, the brief respite from the demands of daily life in the great city. More customers arrive as the sun sinks lower behind the tall buildings. There is young Quintus, barely more than a boy, who works as a messenger for the merchants in the forum. His sandals are worn thin from running on cobblestones, and his tunic bears the dust of a dozen errands completed since dawn. He approaches the counter with careful coins clutched in his palm, his day's wages, and orders a bowl of the barley soup that will be both his dinner and his comfort. Marcus serves the boy with extra care, ensuring the bowl is filled to the brim with the thick, nourishing soup. Barley grains swim in rich broth made from bones that simmered all day, seasoned with herbs that grow wild on the hills outside Rome. A drizzle of golden olive oil floats on the surface, catching the lamplight like tiny stars. The boy's eyes widen with gratitude, and Marcus adds a handful of warm bread torn from a loaf that still holds the memory of the baker's oven. As twilight settles over the neighborhood, the character of Marcus's thermopolium begins to change subtly, like a flower closing its petals for the night. The bustling energy of the day's rush softens into something more intimate and peaceful. Regular customers linger longer at the counter, savoring not just their food, but the warmth of community that Marcus has created in this small space. Conversations become quieter, more gentle, touched by the reflective mood that comes with evening's approach. Old Severus shuffles up to the counter, leaning heavily on his walking stick carved from olive wood. His back is bent from 40 years of hauling stone for Rome's endless construction, but his eyes still hold the bright intelligence of a man who has seen the city grow from a collection of hills into the center of the world. Marcus greets him with special tenderness, for Severus has been coming to the thermopolium since Marcus was barely old enough to help his father serve customers. Something warm for these old bones, Severus says, with a smile that creases his weathered face into a map of kindness. Marcus ladles soup into Severus's battered clay bowl, adding extra vegetables and a generous portion of the tender meat that has been simmering all day. The old man's hands shake slightly as he accepts the bowl, but Marcus steadies it with his own steady grip, a gesture so natural and practiced that it seems like part of the serving ritual itself. The stone counter continues its ancient work, conducting heat from the glowing braziers below up through the marble to the terracotta vessels that hold the evening's feast. This remarkable innovation, this marriage of Roman engineering and culinary tradition, represents something profound about human ingenuity. In the gentle way of ancient times, someone long ago looked at the problem of keeping food warm for the working people of the city and created this elegant solution that has nourished countless souls through countless evenings just like this one. As the darkness deepens and the street lamps are lit by the city's lamplighters, Marcus begins the gradual ritual of preparing for the night's close. But there is no hurry in his movements, no sense of rushing towards the end of the day. Instead, each action flows naturally into the next, like water finding its course down a hillside. He stirs each pot thoughtfully, tasting, adjusting, ensuring that every bowl served will carry the full warmth and nourishment that his customers deserve after their long day's labor. The last customers of the evening arrive individually now, rather than in the small groups that marked the dinner rush. There is Helena, the weaver, whose fingers are stained with dyes the color of sunset and ocean waves. She orders warm wine and stands quietly at the counter, watching the steam rise from her cup, while the tensions of threading countless strands slowly ease from her shoulders. Beside her, Cassius the carpenter shares the comfortable silence, his own hands wrapped around a bowl of lentil stew that steams like incense in the cooling air. The sounds of the neighborhood settle into evening's gentle rhythm around Marcus's thermopolium. From nearby apartments comes the soft murmur of families gathering for their own meals, the gentle laughter of children being tucked into bed, the distant plucking of a lyre as someone practices an old song. The stone streets still hold the day's warmth, but the air carries the first cool breath of night, making the steam from Marcus's counter seem like visible comfort rising into the star-touched sky. Marcus moves between his vessels with the patience of someone who understands that serving food is about more than simply filling hungry bellies. Each ladle of stew, each cup of warming wine, each handful of roasted nuts represents a moment of care passed from his hands to another person's life. In the gentle way of ancient times, this simple act of nourishment connects him to an unbroken chain of hospitality that stretches back through generations and forward into times yet to come. The terracotta vessels that nestle in their carved stone cradles tell their own stories through the chips and stains of faithful service. Each one was shaped by a potter's hands from clay dug from hills outside Rome, fired in kilns that glowed like small suns, and seasoned through months of holding warm food. The largest vessel, which holds the lentil stew, bears a hairline crack that Marcus's wife mended with bronze wire, creating a delicate tracery that catches the lamplight like golden embroidery. The smallest, which cradles the roasted chickpeas, is glazed in a deep blue that reminds Marcus of summer sky reflected in still water. As the evening progresses toward full night, Marcus begins the slow process of banking his fires and cleaning his counter, but he does so with the same unhurried grace that marks all his actions. With a bronze scraper worn smooth by years of use, he carefully removes any spills from the marble surface, and the stone gleams under his attention like moonlight on calm water. Each circular hole is wiped clean, ready to cradle tomorrow's vessels of nourishment, and the bronze ladles are washed in warm water scented with herbs before being hung on their hooks to dry. The last customer of the evening is Claudia, an elderly woman who tends a small shrine dedicated to the household gods in the apartment building next door. Her steps are careful and measured, and her white hair is arranged in the simple style of a matron who has earned respect through decades of quiet service to her community. She approaches Marcus's counter as she has every evening for 10 years, and her presence brings a sense of benediction to the closing day. "Just wine tonight, Marcus," she says, and her voice carries the gentle authority of someone who has seen many seasons turn and many young people grow to wisdom under her watchful care. Marcus serves her with special reverence, choosing his finest bronze cup and ensuring the wine is perfectly warmed, neither too hot nor too cool, but exactly the temperature to bring comfort without burning. He adds an extra measure of honey and a small piece of cinnamon bark, gifts that speak of the deep respect between them. As Claudia sips her wine, she looks around the small thermopolium with eyes that see not just the present moment, but the layers of memory that have accumulated in this space like sediment in a quiet pool. She remembers when Marcus was young and learning the trade from his father, when his movements were quick and sometimes uncertain. She has watched him grow into the steady, gentle man he has become, and she has seen how his small establishment has become a cornerstone of the neighborhood's daily rhythm, a place where working people can find not just food, but a moment of peace and human connection. The steam continues to rise from the stone counter as Marcus begins to cover each vessel with wooden lids carved to fit perfectly over the terracotta rims. The lids themselves are works of simple craftsmanship, made from olive wood and worn smooth by countless removals and replacements. Each one bears the patina of years of service, stained golden brown by the steam and fragrant with the memory of all the meals they have helped to keep warm. Marcus moves around his counter with the final rituals of the day, and each action seems to carry the weight of tradition and the promise of tomorrow's renewal. He adjusts the charcoal in the braziers beneath the stone, ensuring they will burn low and steady through the night, ready to be coaxed back to full heat when dawn brings the first customers seeking warm porridge and hot wine to fortify them for another day's labor. The marble counter, still warm from the day's service, seems to pulse gently with stored heat and accumulated kindness, like a heart that beats with the rhythm of human care. The neighborhood around the thermopolium settles into deeper quiet as Marcus completes his closing preparations, and the sounds of evening become softer, more distant, like whispers shared between old friends. From somewhere comes the gentle splash of water being poured, the soft closing of a wooden shutter, the murmur of a mother singing her children to sleep with a lullaby as old as the 7 hills of Rome. The stone streets hold the day's stories in their worn surfaces, and tomorrow they will witness new stories, new connections, new moments of simple human kindness shared over bowls of warming food. Marcus takes a final cloth and polishes the marble surface of his counter until it gleams in the lamplight, and in that gentle, repetitive motion, lies all the satisfaction of work well done and service faithfully rendered. The stone seems to absorb the care he lavishes upon it, storing up the love and attention like warmth stored up by sun-heated rocks that will release their gentle heat long into the cool night hours. As he prepares to extinguish the oil lamps that have illuminated his thermopolium throughout the evening, Marcus pauses for a moment to appreciate the simple beauty of his life's work. The carved stone counter, still radiating the day's accumulated warmth, represents more than just an ingenious method for keeping food hot. It embodies the eternal human impulse to nourish and comfort one another, to create small havens of warmth and welcome in the vast complexity of city life. The terracotta vessels rest peacefully in their stone cradles, covered now with their wooden lids, but still holding the promise of tomorrow's nourishment. The bronze ladles hang silent on their hooks, clean and ready for another day of service. The marble counter, worn smooth by countless interactions between server and served, seems to glow with its own inner light, as if the thousands of small acts of kindness performed across its surface have somehow been absorbed into the very stone itself. Marcus banks the last coals in their braziers beneath the counter, and the gentle heat continues to rise through the marble, ensuring that the stone will remain warm through the night hours, ready to cradle the morning's first vessels of porridge and warming wine. This continuous cycle of heating and serving, cooling and renewal connects Marcus's small thermopolium to the larger rhythms of the city, the seasons, and the endless human story of those who work and rest, hunger and satisfaction, solitude and community. The oil lamps flicker lower as Marcus moves to extinguish them one by one, and with each lamp that goes dark, the thermopolium settles deeper into the peaceful quiet of night. But the stone counter continues its patient work, holding warmth like a promise, storing up the day's kindnesses like a treasury of human connection that will be drawn upon again when dawn returns to the narrow streets of Rome. Outside, the great city prepares for sleep, its millions of souls settling into rest after another day of building, creating, trading, learning, and loving. In small apartments above shops, families gather around their own tables for evening meals. In the grand villas on the hills, slaves bank the fires in elaborate hippocaust systems that will warm marble floors through the cool night hours. And here, in Marcus's small thermopolium, the cycle of service and rest continues its ancient rhythm, as eternal and reliable as the turning of the seasons and the rising of the sun. Marcus makes his way around the counter one final time, his footsteps soft on the stone floor that has been worn smooth by generations of servers and customers. He touches the marble surface gently, feeling the stored warmth that speaks of the day's successful service. And in that simple gesture lies a benediction for all who will gather here again when morning light returns to the cobblestone streets. The bronze ladles catch the light of the final lamp for one last moment before darkness claims the small space, and they seem to gleam with anticipation of tomorrow's service, tomorrow's opportunities to ladle warmth and nourishment into the bowls and cups of working people who will begin their day with food prepared by caring hands. As Marcus extinguishes the last oil lamp and the thermopolium settles into complete darkness, the stone counter continues its patient vigil, holding the warmth of the day like a mother holds a sleeping child. And in the gentle glow of the banked coals beneath the marble surface, the promise of tomorrow's renewal burns steady and sure. The stars appear one by one above the narrow streets of Rome, keeping their ancient watch over the sleeping city. And somewhere in the darkness, the stone counter rests in peaceful readiness, knowing that when dawn returns, it will once again fulfill its noble purpose of warming food and warming hearts in the simple, eternal rhythm of service and sustenance that connects all generations in the unbroken chain of human caring. And so the night settles over Marcus's thermopolium like a gentle blanket, and the carved stone counter that has served as the foundation for countless acts of nourishment and kindness rests in the darkness, dreaming perhaps of all the meals yet to be served, all the moments of comfort yet to be offered, all the simple human connections yet to be fostered across its warm, welcoming surface, in the timeless way of those who understand that the greatest innovations are often the simplest ones. A stone counter, some clay pots, and the endless human desire to feed one another with love.